for me personally, like I just want it to be sort of something that can grow. And I think it's important to have options. So rather than being like, I'll just like maximize super to the nth degree, like there's also this as another lower tax structure than my own personal marginal tax rate that I can invest in with my husband as well. And we both, can sort of actively see that.
Welcome to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast. I'm here with Tash, and also we've got Jess Bell on again, who's going to talk to us about investment bonds. So investment bonds, not to be confused with regular bonds, Tash.
Yes. Anna just got so excited because Jess mentioned she was maybe going to invest or put some money into an investment bond, and Anna jumped up with joy. So here we are.
Yeah. And the reason that I was so excited about it is because often I'll talk to people about investing for kids, and investment bonds come up quite a bit. And often they're referred to as investment bonds or insurance bonds. Why would someone invest in one of these?
Well, wait, what are they?
Yeah, first
Let's go back.
Yeah.
Well, an investment bond is just a structure. So it's the same company structure, 30% tax rate is the maximum. So I think where people might say, maybe I don't want to go down that path, is if they're already on a low tax structure, they're like, well, why would I pay 30% in a bond versus in my own name, for example? But the benefit is change of ownership. So for example, I could have a bond and change ownership to you, then you own the bond and there's no tax implications in that. So tax paid on the bond occurs after a 10-year period as well. So after the 10-year period, the bond's paid all the tax that it needs to. The benefit is the way that the bond managers actually structure the investments within. So the actual effective tax rate that the bond usually pays is around 16%. It's actually much lower than the 30%. Because obviously they get franking credits and they get, they can offset tax parcels. So the losses can be offset against the gains, and they can choose the parcels to do that. So they're constantly managing the tax within the structure. And yeah, the main thing is around that change of ownership. So where you can say, I want this vesting date for my child at 18 or 25 or 30, and you get to elect that at the time that you create the bond. But if it came to, the night before their 18th birthday, or maybe not that delayed, but, a week out and you think they're not ready for it, you can change the future vesting date. So you own the bond until the vesting date comes due. And again, you can change ownership. For the most part, people might own it jointly if they've got a partner and they want it to be for their child. The good thing about bonds is that you always have access to the money. So I think that was the one thing around the 10-year rule. If you are investing, you obviously have the initial amount that you can put in. So in the first year, obviously it's unlimited. And then from there on, you've got 125% rule. So you can only invest 125% of the last year's amount.
Let's maybe break it down a little bit, because it sounds quite confusing if you're there's this investment bond structure. Is it kind of can we compare it almost to a super fund, whereas a super fund is a structure and then you buy investments inside that structure? So instead of a super fund, maybe you've got an investment bond and there's different rules attached to it.
Yes.
And you can buy ETFs and bonds in the investment bond, or just ETFs?
It's managed funds, and I'm pretty sure they do have some ETFs as well. They have a limited investment menu. So I think it's 45 different options. So you can have a multi-blend fund, for example, obviously this is not advice, but the Vanguard indexed balanced fund, for example, you can choose that, or you can choose an Australian share fund, or, an international share fund, for example, or a fixed income fund. So you get to choose the underlying risk associated with it as well. So you're investing in line with whatever risk profile, similar to a super fund as well. So yeah, you choose the layer of growth, I suppose, associated with the investment. And then obviously, you've just got to sort of let it go. You can set up, regular transfers in. So in the first year, that's probably where you sort of set up, well, what am I wanting to do? Am I wanting to just invest a lump sum and let it go? Or do I want a monthly transfer to go in and invest it in, obviously, whatever the investment choice is within the bond? So I think when people get confused between government bonds, it's not the same thing. An investment bond is, like you say, a super structure. The difference is obviously superannuation is 15% tax on the earnings versus a bond is 30%. Like I said, it's not usually that high. And if you are releasing capital over time, so you might have a bond to help pay for children's education, for example, and you make withdrawals to fund for those education costs, you're not impacting the 125% rule as a result of the withdrawal, though they usually release your capital to you first. So there can sometimes be, and again, that's for them to do, and you get tax reports. So you sort of know what implications might be in your hand at the end of the day. But basically, they'll try to release your own capital first, so there's no tax implications. But in some instance, they might release some of the earnings as well. And then you get a 30% tax offset because obviously the bond pays the 30%, and then you pay the top-up tax in your own name.
So you can take it out whenever you want, but you only get the discounted tax rate if it's in there for 10 years.
Yes. So it'll be 100% tax-free if you sold it down after 10 years, as long as you adhere to obviously those rules.
So you want to invest for something 10 years time, school fees, whatever it happens to be. For life, maybe you want to buy a boat. That could be fun as well.
Yeah.
You put money in, and then the next year you can put up to 125% of that original amount in again. And then you keep putting money in, and 10 years, you can just take that money out with the 13 or whatever the tax rate ends up being. 16%.
Well, yeah. So every year, obviously, the bond will pay its own tax. And then after that, you can obviously, if you wanted to cash out the entire thing, then tax paid, no implications for you personally because it's its own structure.
That's fun. I always talk about how having a company feels like a tax hack because, paying less tax and being able to tax deduct so many more things is really fun. But this seems like a cool way to access the lower tax rate without having to start up a business.
Exactly. And like I said, change of ownership is really flexible as well. So like I said, I could have it in my name. And then if I wanted to change it to my husband's name, and then if we wanted to just say, for example, I went on maternity leave, for example, and if it was in my husband's name and then we wanted to make a withdrawal, we knew there was going to be top-up tax, we could change it to my name. I don't have any income if I am not working. That obviously means no top-up tax having to be paid because I don't have assessable income. Move it back to his name if I want.
Can you change it as much as you want?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
The legal money laundering is back. I know. This is crazy.
Well, I mean, this is why I found this really interesting, right? Because a lot of people were looking at it for their kids, but also grandparents can use it, aunts and uncles, and this is a way to set something up for a kid. I mean, you don't have to do it for a kid, right? You can do it for anybody.
Yeah.
But this is a way that it doesn't impact your own taxable income, right? So if you're investing, for example, in your own name, you're going to be paying tax on that. Or if you're having a minor account, there's tax that's happening there. Whereas this is kind of being controlled in its own environment. So if you're an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, and you're like, I want to do this for someone, my grandkid, my child, my whoever, someone, it's not going to impact your taxes at all. And that's why it's a huge benefit for a lot of people.
I love this so much.
Yeah. And I like it too. My mum did it for her grandson, so my nephew. I recommended she do it. But that was a good way because she thought, well, she was going to do the vesting date at 18. I said, absolutely not. He will not be ready at 18. So we did 25. But again, she just wanted it to be something that he might be able to use toward a house deposit because she just thought, well, if there's some way that I can help him, then, what is the best way? Is it a bank account, for example? And I said, well, you get interest on a bank account potentially, but you don't get any growth.
And you have to pay tax on that interest.
Yeah. So, because most people just have the bank account in their own name and it's the kids' fund, for example. So it's a really good way to invest for your children on their behalf, but it not be in your name and have to trigger, capital gains tax and things like that at the point that you need to sell it and give it to them, or, the change of ownership obviously triggers capital gains at that point as well. So.
Yeah, you've got me thinking now with the bit around going on maternity leave and just being able to transfer it to whoever. That's pretty cool.
I didn't even think about that option, but it's such a really great one, actually.
Because I only hear it really spoken about in the context of kids mostly. Mm-hmm. That seems like a great option for that, but I haven't thought about it in the context of being adults as well.
So tell us more about that. I know that there's a couple things for people to think about. So there's the 125% that you can put in. The rule. And if you put nothing 1 year, then you can no longer put money into it. So that's another consideration as well, right?
Yeah, but you just start another bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you have as many as you want?
Yeah.
Magic.
What is the cost of running a bond?
They're actually pretty low cost. So it's actually inbuilt in the investment choice that you elect. But because we don't tend to put ongoing advisor fees on them either. So they're kind of just set and forget in the background. But if you got the Vanguard fund, for example, at 0.6%, it's
so it's just
low.
the fee of what the potential managed fund is. That's it. It's not an additional fee on top of it to set it up.
The ongoing fee, I'm trying to think, but I'm pretty sure it's all sort of built in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there many providers you can go to? Where do you even start with looking for something like this?
Yeah. I know of three. So again, this is just like talking about who's available in the market.
Facts, not advice.
This is just facts. So Generation Life is one, Futurity Group is another, and Australian Unity.
Oh yes, I've heard of Australian Unity a lot more than the other two. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're the three providers that I know.
Let me have a Google. Yeah.
So what are the other examples? We talked obviously about children and whatnot. The taking maternity leave is a really great one as well. What other examples do people use this in? Or are those the main ones?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I just want it to be sort of something that can grow and, you will have access to it. I think that's the difference, is having it still be invested and being able to access it in the event of emergencies, like if you were absolutely detrimental, rather than it being, putting money into superannuation, which is also important. That's its own sort of can of worms, but I think it's important to have options. So rather than being I'll just maximize super to the nth degree, there's also this as another lower tax structure than my own personal marginal tax rate that I can invest in with my husband as well. And we both, can sort of actively see that.
Why would higher income earners, people in the top tax bracket, invest in their own name and not through an investment bond then?
That's a very good question. Probably just limited investment options. So if you were very specific about what you wanted to invest in, if you wanted, your suite of ETFs or, a direct share portfolio, then obviously you'd go your own name, because that's not always there's a really limited sort of investment menu, but I think they're expanding it. They've spoken about adding a little bit more to the menu, which I think they'll just ever evolve as well, which is good. But at least from a risk profile sense, you can get that sort of growth exposure that you want. But the whole stock picking side of things, you just don't have that as an option in a bond.
I love conversations like this, because now I'm going to go home and relook at everything.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. And it's exciting because it's something that I've read about, but I haven't talked to someone about it. So it's great to hear a different example of when you would potentially use it as well. And
it's great because, like I said, with the education cost side of things, and building those funds as well. I'm looking at it for a scenario at the moment where it's going to save a whole year's worth of school fees for clients.
This is crazy how some things we talk about a lot, and it's great when we talk about them a lot, but then this just kind of slides under the radar unless you know the right person to ask. You see an advisor or the right person mentions that they've used it for their kids' school fees or whatever, but otherwise you just don't really hear about it.
Or you see me get really excited and be let's talk about investment bonds, and where Tash is oh, that sounds so boring.
I talk about money all the time, but this isn't a conversation that comes up very often, which is crazy.
Because it doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think, investment bonds, and also because I think the word bonds is in it.
Yes.
They just need a whole rehaul.
I know. I wish it could be called something else. Because they're under, and because of that change of ownership thing, it's because they're under the life insurance scheme or whatever it is. So that's why they can have it totally different to superannuation or any other structure. But I think that also the main difference is that tax parcel thing, them being able to offset gains with the losses that they might have within the fund. Obviously they're not searching for losses, but if they happen to come up, then they're obviously looking at ways at which they can minimize overall tax paid within the fund, and then obviously add the franking credits back in. That's why it can be a much lower rate than the top at 30%.
Still better than 45 or 47 if you happen to be earning that much money.
Yeah,
for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know. We're going to both go home and Google.
Yeah,
that's great.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invests, or me at Ana Cristina.
The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etchman from Tash Invests and Ana Cristina from Perla. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorised representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorised representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.